everybody, welcome to Attitudes with Andy. Thank you so much for being here each and every week. I truly appreciate it. Today we are back in Australia. We are no longer on tour. Being on tour in England was super fun, and thank you for your patience because I know the quality probably wasn't creme de la creme. Now I am in my bedroom, as you can see. Could I be bothered to go to the studio? Not really, because today is actually a main episode, but you guessed, is me, myself, and I. And today I'm going to be talking about lessons I learned from the 6 weeks of travel that I just did over in England and a little sprinkle of Europe, going to Barcelona and then also going around the Netherlands. Now, the reason I'm doing this episode is because I've been fortunate enough to travel a lot and move around a lot in my life, but honestly, I have never had such a pivotal 6 weeks in my life. And if you are looking for an excuse to go traveling, then hopefully listening to all the realizations I had might make you be like, you know what, I'm gonna book that trip. So yeah, without further ado, let's get into the 10 lessons I learnt whilst being overseas. It might end up being 9 because one of them is quite vulnerable and I'm not sure whether I will include it. So listen to all of it to see whether I include it. Before I begin, might I just say that my travels might be really different to somebody else who might be backpacking around Europe, because half of my family is in England and it's all the family that I'm really close with. So I basically the whole entire time stayed with family or friends, and I got to stay for quite a while, and I've been there tons of times before. I know how to get to each place. So this is not a travel story where you're staying in hostels and you're constantly being like, where am I going and what am I doing and is my passport safe, because that actually is quite energy consuming. My travels was completely different. I was basically feeling like home constantly and seeing loved ones, and so that's why I think I had so many revelations, because I was so chill, my dudes. I was so zen. Okay, enough waffling, let's get into it. So I have my trusty notepad here with all the things I've learned. Yeah. Okay. First of all, we're starting with one of the biggest and most important revelations I had. And what I wrote down here is that connection and community is everything. And life would be nothing without them. So cherish them and invest into them. So being with my family made me realize that this is all that truly matters, because if you had all the success in life and you got the mansion and the car and the promotion and all the money, but you had nobody to share it with, then it wouldn't mean jack shit. Like, our successes are only great when we have people to celebrate them with. And so I'm not saying don't be ambitious and go for all those things. Definitely go for those. But community and our relationships are everything. And I think before this trip, I was completely prioritizing the wrong things. And if you listen to this podcast and if you follow me on Instagram, you probably know what I'm talking about. But I was spending like 12-hour days at a co-working space doing work and doing podcast stuff. And I was saying no to events, and I was just not prioritizing the things that truly matter. And whilst I'm still going to be ambitious AF, I'm moving some things around because people matter and your relationships matter. And I just feel so filled with so much love and gratitude. And so I'm really glad that I had that revelation. I needed it so bad. So definitely connection and community, and going for coffee with your friend and deepening your relationship with them is going to bring you so much more happiness than going and buying a handbag or a new outfit. Isn't that so awesome? And when I think about stuff like that, I'm like, gee, I'm really not going to want to spend my money on anything apart from experiences with people, because that is actually what's going to bring us happiness. Okay, next point is number 2. You don't know how much a change in environment can help you. It gives you perspective. And I didn't realize how intense I was being in Australia until I went overseas, and my environment was obviously completely different. I didn't have the same things in my life to trigger certain thoughts or certain reactions. And that's why I was able to chill the F out. I spoke about this on my Instagram story, but I was so chill overseas, and I've only been back for a few days and I'm still channeling that chillness. But my God, oh my goodness, I didn't realize how much I needed to leave my current environment to be able to have all these perspectives. And so if you're going through something challenging, or you might just feel super stressed, if you can, even just like for a weekend, go to a getaway or somewhere a little bit more remote from where you live. I think it really helps step away from your environment and be able to analyze things. And before I went on my trip, I couldn't drink a double shot of coffee without having the shakes. And I just told myself, oh, I'm just super sensitive to caffeine. And then in England, I was smacking double shots like no tomorrow, and I was absolutely fine. And I was like, okay, cool. So I was actually really freaking stressed. And now I'm back in Australia, lo and behold, I can drink a double shot of coffee. So yeah, being away from your environment can help you so much. And there were so many beautiful places I went to in England, because luckily a lot of my family and friends live in kind of country-ish places. Like I went to London for a tiny bit, that was crazy, but a lot of people live out in the country with lots of trees and lots of beautiful scenery. And I said to them, I was like, if I ever have like a cute mentee bee, can I please just come here and chill? And they were like, of course. So now I got my mentee bee locations. Okay, number 3 is I like feminine clothes. That was a revelation I had. So if you have known me for a while, I've been a tomboy for a very, very long time. And I also am so like money saving, love saving money, love investing. And so I find it hard to spend money on myself. I find it way easier to spend money on other people than on myself. So basically with the tomboy and the not wanting to spend money and being a low-key, actually a high-key minimalist, I would never buy clothes, okay? And then when there were events to go to, I would get stressed out because I would have nothing to wear. Anyway, this trip, I was like, wait, hold the phone. I like wearing dresses, and I like wearing skirts, and I like wearing cute tops, and I like dressing up. Look, I had my nails done. Like, look, she's in her girl era, a feminine era, and I'm loving it, okay? I'm loving it. And I had another revelation that I don't need to put myself in a box with the outfits that I wear, because I used to be like, oh no, my style is like minimalistic but cool. What? Now I've discovered that if I wake up and I'm like, yeah, I want to put on a cute dress, I can do that. And then if the next day I'm like, I want to be like cool vibes, I can put on like a baggy t-shirt and baggy jeans, and that's cool as well. And then if the next day I'm like, I want to be boss girl vibes, I can put on a blazer and a cute, cool fit, and that's cool as well. Like I don't need to put myself in a box. I can have lots of different styles to match the energy that I want to put out that day. It's a revelation. Don't know if anybody else relates to this. Let me know if you do, but that one was a very refreshing one. And yeah, I went to London, I went shopping, and I wasn't like, I encouraged myself to buy things. I was just really proud of myself. Anyway, moving on. Okay, number 4. The things that make us feel alive require bravery and discomfort. So, this is one of my favorite revelations. I say this about everyone, but it truly is the case. Anything that you do in life that makes you feel so alive and it brings you so much joy or so much adrenaline, it requires some payment of bravery and discomfort and vulnerability. How I realized this was we were by the seaside in England, which is stunning. But let me tell you, the ocean is freezing. It is literally like an ice bath, and that's what it's like during summer. So I dread to think what it's like in winter. And we went for a few swims, and I didn't have a wetsuit. I just went in my bikini. But when you go in, obviously getting in was a mission. I was there like, I'm so cold, But once you're in, you're like, oh my gosh, I feel alive. And it just wakes you the frick up and you feel so, so good. And I was like, isn't that funny that the thing that is like scary and it's cold and it's uncomfortable also makes you feel so alive and so awesome. And I realized that when one day I just decided to run half a marathon when I was in England. And just doing that, I was like, wow, going for a long run requires discipline and discomfort, but it also feels so good. And I got to see so many beautiful things and sceneries. So there you go. Another two examples I have is when you go and visit an unfamiliar place that you've never been to. I don't know about you guys, but it actually makes me feel a little uncomfortable when I first go because you're in the unknown. You don't know this place. There's so many new things. There's so many uncertainties. And then you go and lo and behold, it's amazing. And that's another thing that makes you feel alive. And the last thing is just being vulnerable with people in particular. But we'll get onto that in the next few, what I learned. But the things that make us feel alive require bravery and discomfort. And I know I've said it a million times, but this podcast is such an example of that because I felt so ill. I didn't want to do it. I felt so vulnerable. I had so much fear and anxiety about starting this podcast, but it makes me feel so alive and I'm so happy I did it. That was number 4. Very passionate about that one. Okay, next one. Number 5 is people are here to help and we were never meant to do this thing called life alone. Is that not the cutest sentence you've ever heard? Because when I wrote it, my heart just melted a little bit. But I think, and I don't know why I've been like this, but I have been so hyper independent for a lot of my life. And genuinely, it's not until about this year, maybe last year for a bit of it, but mainly this year, where I have realized that we were never meant to do it alone and that you can ask for help and people want to help you. And it just fills my heart with so much happiness when I'm with my family and I just realize how much unconditional love they have for me and everybody else in the family and how much they're just willing to help, even if it's inconvenient for them. And just doing small things like just picking me up from the station or making sure there's gluten-free food for the celiac in the building. Just, I love it so much. And same with friends. Yesterday I needed to hang up a picture and I just called my mate and I was like, hey, can you please help me? And he was like, yeah, sure. So he came around and helped me. And old me literally never would have done that. I would have been like, I can do it myself. I can do it myself. I can do it myself. And even just people who will just talk through things with you when I'm like, oh, I don't know whether I should do A or B. And guys, we were never meant to do it alone. I guess it goes back to the community aspect at the beginning, but people are here to help you. And when you ask somebody to help, whether it's just a small favor like hanging up a picture or whether you're like, hey, I'm worried about something, can I talk through options with you? It is an honor to be able to help somebody. And so when you do that, you're letting them know that they can ask you the same thing back. Okay? So sometimes it does feel a bit vulnerable asking for help, but you're actually being a good friend, letting them know that they can ask you that back. So, just saying. Just saying. Okay, number 6. This is so exciting, but Attitudes with Andy officially hired their first ever team member. Woo! So yes, Attitudes with Andy has grown. We've doubled in size. There's 2 of us now, and this team member is amazing, and I'm so happy to have her a part of the crew, the big crew of 2. But hiring a team member has saved me so much time and energy. It's unbelievable. And I think we always tend to have the mindset of like, I can do it myself, or no one can do it as good as me, especially when it's something like this podcast where it's my baby, and giving somebody else the task of editing the podcast and making reels and all of that was very scary, and I felt very vulnerable doing it. But my goodness, I won't say their name in case they don't want to be like publicly known, but this team member is creme de la creme. I think she's been, maybe it's been a month now, so it's early days, but she's doing a really, really good job. And hiring her made me realize how much you can like palm off as long as you train people and teach them well and guide them, because I genuinely don't think I would have been able to keep up with the releases of the 2 podcasts a week and all the reels if it wasn't for her, if I'm being honest. Like, I think I would have been like, okay, I actually just need to hit pause for the time that I'm overseas. But I could keep doing that whilst being with my family and friends. It was just amazing. And now that I've gone and done it, I'm like, yes. And it's just saving me so much time and energy that now I can forward think and be like, okay, cool, now I want to do this and this. Whereas before I just didn't have the time and energy to forward think. So it's been a blessing. So thank you. She knows who she is because she's editing this right now. Okay. Number 7 is simplifying your life is amazing. My dad always said growing up, the more you have, the more you have to do. And that is so, so true. And so if you can simplify your life and have not many things and not many commitments and also not much expenses, you're going to create so much more freedom and options for your life. So for example, me going overseas for 6 weeks, I could hit pause on all of my kind of memberships. So like my gym membership or my membership with the co-working space, all of those things I could hit pause on. The only thing I didn't hit pause on is my rent, which is fine. And it just meant that I only worked 2 days a week whilst I was overseas. My boss is the best. And the rest of it, I just got to travel, and I had plenty of surplus money because I always keep my expenses as low as possible. And yeah, so simplify your life. Honestly, it is just premium, because I think a lot of people might have like car repayment things, or they might have not bought their phone outright, so they might have to be paying quite a lot each week or each month, or they might have tons of subscriptions, I don't know, like Netflix or just lots of things. Now I can't think. But anyway, moral of the story is keep your costs low, because then you can do stuff like going overseas, hit pause on the things that are important to you, and then you will be able to have options, which is wonderful. And also work for a company that's flexible. Honestly, my whole family were like, wait, so how are you getting 6 weeks off work? And I was like, I'm still working, but just 2 days a week, and that is perfect. And I actually enjoyed working whilst overseas as well. I don't know. You just still feel good, because if I came back and then I hadn't been working, I'd be like, oh no, everything's gone to shite. Okay. Well, the sun's out. How pretty. It's so cold in here. Okay. All right. Number 8. If you've made it this far, I'll let you in, I think. Nervous. Okay, so, oh no, I'm cringing at myself. All right, this is the point that I felt vulnerable saying, but, okay, let's just do it and I can cut it if I don't want it. Okay, so the next, number 8, is I had a bit of a very cute romance over in England. And it was with a man who I have known since I was 9 years old, and I've liked him ever since then. Yep. When I mean a man, I mean he's like a year older than me. I don't mean like an old man. Anyway, but having this romance was very eye-opening to me, and it actually taught me so many things. And before I go into them, disclaimer, like, we're not together. It's not like that for logistical reasons, you know. England, Australia, but also the fact that he's about to go around the world for 2 years, which is very exciting. But anyway, this is TMI. But this, you know, fling, whatever you would call it, has taught me some important lessons. So first of all, I will never, ever accept anything but the high standards that this man set. Because let me tell you, he treated me like the queen that I am. And knowing your worth is super duper important, because back in the day, I did not realize the person I was and how well I deserved to be treated and how well other people deserve to be treated as well. It's a two-way street, obviously. But I cringe at the shite that I once accepted when I was younger. But that is no more. Ladies and gentlemen, we have high standards, okay? So accept nothing but the best. So he taught me how well I deserve to be treated, which I did already know, but then seeing somebody kind of like do it, I was like, oh, that's quite a vibe. The second was that I actually enjoy somebody looking after me. As I said before, I am a hyper independent person, and usually I'm like, whoa, I don't need looking after. But it was very nice having somebody look after me, treat me like a bit of a queen. So that was very nice. And yeah, I've always thought that I didn't want a boyfriend, or not at least at this era of my life, because I was like, no, I'm busy hustling. I'm busy building my empire. What I realized is that somebody can help you get there as well. You know, they can make the journey easier. So he was great. And anytime we were together, and then I was like, sorry, I just need to like quickly do some podcast stuff or like editing. He was very respectful, but at the same time was also like, okay, make sure you take a break. And, you know, so I liked that. Oh my God, this is so cringe. Oh, am I being simpy? Okay. You guys are my friends, so you can know. Okay. And hang on, let me just, sorry. I don't know if I can keep this in. Okay. Yeah. So that's what I've learned from this beautiful summer fling. And the last thing on this topic, because I'm feeling awkward, is kind of just how maybe I should feel with people, which with him is just like so calm and safe and secure. And I think other people I've seen in the past, I would be so kind of like controlling of the situation and overthinking and being like, oh, do they like me? Like, what's happening? Like, whereas this is just a completely different feeling. And I don't know how to explain it, but it's just a really nice, calm, safe feeling. And just not being like, oh wait, can I say this? Can I say that? Do I seem like I like him too much? Like, there's none of that. It's like, I feel so calm and safe, and I just say however I feel. And yeah, it's really, really nice. Anyway, moving on. Okay. Oh, by the way, this is Graham. This is my unicorn. I left him here. I didn't bring him to Europe. He was very upset with me. I'm 23 years old and I still sleep with a toy unicorn. Not mad about it. Okay. Swiftly on. Number 9. We're nearly at the last bit. And the last point is my favorite. Okay. Number 9 is, this trip obviously made me realize a lot of things. This is the year of realizing things. Quote Kylie Jenner. Okay. But it really did make me reassess what I want. And before I went overseas, I was very intense, okay? And I was like, I want this and this and this. So it made me realize, first of all, I do not want to be an influencer. Before, I was posting a lot on my personal page. You should go follow Attitudes with Andy though, the Instagram page, because that's a vibe. Anyway, I was posting a lot on my personal page because in my mind, I was like, if I build my personal page, people will go and listen to the podcast and it will get bigger and then I can interview bigger guests. It's all about being able to reach the big dogs. Okay. But what I realized is that I absolutely do not want to be an influencer. Obviously, I want the podcast to be big, but my own personal life and all of that is for me to enjoy. And so I actually made my personal Instagram private, and now I'm like, cool, I just want that to be for me and my friends and family, and that is it. And so that was a very liberating feeling. And yeah, I mean, I know other people love being influencers, and on the Gold Coast there are so many, and I love that for them, but it's just not my cup of tea. And yeah, so Instagram podcast page will still be thriving, but my personal page is for me, myself, and I. And the other thing I realized is that freedom has always been one of my top values in life, because for me, I just want to have freedom of time and money and choice. And I don't like being told what to do. So obviously I need to be my own boss, which we're working on. Except somehow my boss is so amazing. He makes it seem like he's not telling me what to do, which is why it works so well working for him. But anyway, what I realized is that I really want the freedom and wealth to be able to travel and see my family whenever and in whatever capacity. And it has given me a new kind of reason to be able to create that for myself. And it's a really nice reason because it's outside of myself. It's like I want to spend time with my family and be with them. And so I need to do this instead of it being me, myself, and I. Nah, I'm not sure that made sense. Yay! It made sense in my head. All right, number 10 and the last most important point is that I was in London. I had 2 more nights to go and I had a little nap, because walking around London can be tiring. And I just suddenly realized as I woke up from my nap, I was like, oh my goodness, we're going to die. Like, we are seriously going to die one day. And we do not get a retake. We cannot go back in time. We cannot do this again. And I don't know why, but it really sunk in for me, because we can know the theory of like, oh yeah, we're going to die. But I think if you don't think about it enough and let it sink in, it can just kind of be like, oh yeah, we're going to die, but whatevs. But for me, I was like, holy schnitzels, we are going to die. So let this be a reminder to you to listen to that little voice in your head that is telling you what you need to do. Listen to it, whether it's telling you that you need to go travel, whether you need to quit your job, whether you need to tell that person you love them, whatever it is, listen to that voice in your head. It is there for a reason, because life is so incredibly precious and we are all going to die, and that is certain. And I know that that is maybe a morbid and dark way to end this podcast, but it just kind of reminds you to literally live every day as if it's your last. We, for some reason, think that we're never going to die or that it won't happen to us. But then when somebody dies in the community close to you, it just reminds you how precious life is. So definitely let that be your lesson. So thank you so much for listening once again. I am beyond grateful for all of the people who constantly support. It is so lovely to have you here. And if you did enjoy this, feel free to share this around to a friend, maybe somebody who you want to go to Europe with, and be like, look, these are all the reasons why we need to go to Europe so we can have this many life realizations. Feel free to follow the podcast on Instagram. It's Attitudes with Andy. And, you can leave a review. 5 stars would be amazing, but whatever you want. Click follow and subscribe on whatever platform you are on, because the more followers we have, the bigger the guests we can get on. So thank you so much. I'm very excited for all the episodes that are coming up. I hope you have a beautiful day, and I'll speak to you next week. Bye. I love you all. Kisses. Okay, bye. Oh, Graham says bye.